Hello! I am here today, as fitting for this season, to review a holiday album by Irish singer Enya And Winter Came. This is her seventh studio album and it was released in November of 2008. This is her first Christmas holiday compilation album, probably will be her only, and was something that I definitely thought made sense for her to do. Enya has always loved Christmas music. I mean, if you've seen her perform Adeste Fidelis or O Come Emmanuel in Ireland in these churches, she does these amazing, beautiful performances. And she always performs in her local church in Donegal every Christmas Eve, as far as I'm aware. So she's very connected to, the choral roots of her past. When she was in boarding school, I believe she was in a choir, and she fell in love with all these traditional hymns. She's always loved traditional hymns, but especially Christmas hymns. And I definitely agree. Christmas Eve services, it's the one time I go to church nowadays. And it is just such a magical, sort of fun experience. And of course, Christmas music can get very beaten to death and, jingle bells, deck of halls, that kind of music is always very banal to me and it's very just annoying. But traditional Christmas carols like Angels We Have Heard on High or Silent Night, those are the songs that really still have this just gorgeous, warm feeling to them, but with a little bit of melancholy. And as you know, I like that. Obviously, I am filming this as a holiday review, and Enya sort of was initially crafting this album to be just Christmas songs, but in the crafting of it decided to make it more of like a winter-themed album with definitely a lot of Christmas, but also just songs in general about sort of the end of the year, winter time, introspection. And I actually really appreciate that because, like I said, I don't necessarily think some of the Christmas songs are the strongest songs on this album. I think there's some songs that are more just love songs that sort of speak to, the winter coming and approaching. The title track is probably one of the most beautiful instrumentals Enya has composed, And Winter Came. And it's probably my favorite song on this album, to be completely honest. It speaks about autumn transitioning into winter, and it has just that reflective and a little bit depressing, but also rightfully so, because I think that winter is a time of, introspection. It's a time of, well, some people could call it the long night of dark night of the soul. And sometimes for me, it definitely can feel that way. And so I do view this as a little bit as in the fun is over. It's not necessarily to say that things are going to be darker now, but yeah, they kind of are. There is a little bit of that mournful, lamenting quality to the sound of this song, which fits, I think, my opinion about winter. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it. I definitely don't like cold weather, and snow shoveling is definitely not something I want to be doing. But at the same time, I will admit snow is very beautiful, and I do like the sort of introspectiveness of winter. But at the same time, I think spring and summer and fall just trump winter in so many other ways because, I mean, it's so hard to, when you see just gray skies all the time and very little sunlight, it's a big problem. So And Winter Came is actually a reworked instrumental from a song that she made in the 90s called Midnight Blue. This was a short little instrumental that was released as a B-side for her lead single, one of her singles, Wild Child, off of her album A Day Without Rain. So the beautiful melody is carried from that beautiful instrumental, and then she adds her own vocal choir abilities to it to add even more layer and depth as we progress. Again, it's a nice sort of, I don't want to call it plotting, but it's a nice steady piano with then all this choral layering added on top to make it a traditional, inviting and beautiful, yet kind of sad Enya track. We come to Journey of the Angels. This is a song that Roma has said is her favorite on this record, and it's something that has, I think, some of the strongest unique lyrics because it's basically Enya's take on creating her own church hymn. The song is very spiritual and very Christian as it speaks about the birth of the newborn king. But it has a beautiful melody that really causes it to soar. It's a little bit mysterious, and she definitely employs on so many of these songs that wall of sound comes through really strong, and sometimes in strong, punctuated gusts, I like to call it, where her voice just comes in layered so mightily that it almost overcomes you. And I think that's kind of nice how a lot of these songs ebb and flow on this album. Journey of the Angels is just a beautiful, Christian Christmas hymn that I would see sung in any church, and I'd like to sing it, honestly, every Christmas Eve in church compared to some of the other ones, though I do like them all. or most of them. But I think it was brilliant that she wanted to create her own like that. In the next song, White is in the Winter Night, she sort of did the same thing. She wanted to create more of like a Christmas carol. You know, something that's a little bit more jolly, a little bit more deck the halls. And you know how I feel about that. I gotta be honest, it's probably the weakest song on this record for me. It's sing-song and it's fun and it does have that upbeat catchiness to it that you would expect from more of a children's-based Christmas carol. And I do think that the lyrics are just more kind of playful. It's not really taking itself very seriously, so I can forgive the kind of cheesiness of it. I do think it's trying a little bit too hard to sort of make itself sound like another Christmas carol, and if I had to like rank all of Enya's songs that she's ever put on a mainstream album, I gotta be honest, but I mean, this album's not very high, to be honest, because it's Christmas music. This would probably be my least favorite Enya song she's ever made. But, you know, again, it's not anything against, it's not something I go to for what I want from Enya. It's something that she would put on, like, if she made, like, a kid's album and she wanted to make children's music, which is something I could see her doing, possibly when she's a lot older. Sort of like what Dolly Parton just did, where she just made an album full of children's music. This would fit right into that because it's very direct and it's very playful. But for me, I find it a little bit monotonous. But I mean, you do feel the upbeatness to it. But I don't find it nearly as memorable. O Come, Emmanuel is a very beautiful, haunting Advent traditional hymn that everyone knows because it's sung quite a lot, usually in a solo format, not so much in a choral format. And she shines on this song so beautifully. I mean, it's something that it's a hymn that she's loved ever since she was a kid, and you can tell that she was really just all in her element singing this. You know, she sings in Latin, and there's this one part where I always get like, when you don't know it's coming, you're kind of shocked and surprised because she has this call and response sort of style to it where she sings a line and sometimes you hear it echo in the background. And she sings this line in Latin and then she repeats it, and you probably know what I'm talking about. It really is almost a little too loud for my taste, and I think that gives it a little bit more of like a new kind of new age sort of sound. It does feel like her rendition of it, and even though she doesn't change the arrangement much else, I think that, and she sings it very, you know, dutifully, as I like to say. It's not going to add any sort of vocal acrobatics to it. It's her singing this song as it's supposed to be sung. But she does, with the arrangement, with Nicky Ryan's arrangement, he does like to kind of create this sort of sound space where things come in and out at you. Trains and Winter Rains is the lead single from this album, and it's a little bit more upbeat. It has a little bit of a tempo to it, yet at the same time, it's a bit kind of a depressing subject matter. It's speaking about constantly moving and leaving home. Although I constantly see it as like, you know, when you come home for like winter break, or, you know, you've come home for winter, but maybe, you know, you're leaving somewhere that you like to be and now you're having to go home for winter and you don't like that. Trains and Winter Rains. Well, if there's one thing I definitely do not like about winter is when it rains in winter instead of snows. Winter rains is the just most depressing thing because it just makes everything gross. And especially when it turns to slush and all that. It's just, especially when it rains on top of snow. Trains and Winter Rains sounds poetic and it rhymes, but it's not an image that's very beautiful or something I would like Enya to sing about, because trains are symbolic, but they're not very pretty to look at. So it's very interesting. The lyrics are neon signs in the night, red and blue city lights, cargo trains rolling by. Oh boy, isn't this such beautiful imagery she's conjuring up. Once again, someone cries. If you look at the music video, it actually features someone with headphones in a train. And, you know, it's a metropolitan sort of scene. And this is the first time we have ever seen that for an Enya visual, or even in her lyrics, for her to be talking about city lights, for her to be speaking about cargo trains. Usually her music is so much more about nature. And so the fact that she was actually singing about something that one could argue is quite relatable to especially a younger person who's living in the city, trains across the plains, and in the sky a star alone, is where she does reach out to that sort of broader spiritual concept of talking about a train being like something the heart follows, or like a shooting star. And that's when you're like, okay, Enya, I see where you're going here. Everywhere empty roads, where they go, no one knows. The metaphors abound, and I think that the train or road as a metaphor is a strong one, and I think that that sort of message of coming home to something, or figuring out your journey along the way, especially at a time where you're suddenly reflecting a lot more as it gets longer nights and it's colder, I think fits this song very well. But it's an interesting choice for like a winter themed song from her. It samples that little bit of the Alleluia in the background, which adds just a little bit of a spiritual element that sort of ties it into something a little bit more Christmas sounding. Dreams Are More Precious is basically a very beautiful, heartfelt lullaby. Again, I see this song as almost a little bit more children's lullaby. It's not something that, it's a little bit more spiritual as they talk about high in the heavens, there is a light. Come see, close your eyes. Come see, give me your sorrow. And I keep watch for you until the dawn is breaking through, until the morning wakens you. The theme, of course, is something that's very common to Enya's music, which is basically, a diss to materialism, of understanding, of always look within your heart, always appreciate more what your emotions and how you feel. And of course, family is probably the biggest and richest thing I think about Christmas. And she talks about dreams. Well, of course, dreams are these enigmatic, powerful things. And I do believe that it's better to be rich in dreams than it is to be rich in gold. Last Time by Moonlight is one of my favorites on this album. It kind of takes away the Christmas theme and becomes just more about a winter romance that's gone a little bit melancholy. Yet it still has that upbeat, as she sings, "Oh, who will remember this? For no one knows the way love goes." She has a little bit more of that bouncy choral tune. There's some beautiful key changes as she sings things like, "But nothing is forever, not even the starlight at midnight, not even the moonlight." Even though the subject matter is quite mournful, it's speaking about like the last time we were together as a couple or as in a relationship, and we're reflecting on that. Or it could be reflecting on someone again who has passed on. It still has a joyful, hopeful tone to it, which contrasts another very beautiful, reflective romance song coming 2 songs later. But let's first talk about One Toy Soldier. Again, if she made something a bit more for children, this ticks the box, but it doesn't necessarily bring me coming back. One Toy Soldier is definitely a little bit more interesting, as she takes the concept of that popular Christmas song Little Drummer Boy, which I do find actually quite a fun, especially if you lean it towards kids, Christmas song. It's very percussive. There's a strong tempo that you can definitely hear, and it makes sense because it's a toy soldier and his drum. He stands alone with his drum by his side, with his drum to keep the time, and you can almost hear the metronome of how she sings each line as one note. And then, I think she goes a little too far in that direction when she kind of just punctuates each note. There's no change. It's all whole notes. He keeps the beat of marching feet. He keeps the beat so true. It becomes this sort of march. She does pull from traditional Irish music, which does sometimes follow that structure. And so I can see how that ties into why she wanted to make it. And again, it's a little bit easier for kids to understand when the melody is punctuated like that. So again, it feels just more like a playful kids tune. And at the end, Happy Christmas Day to you. The meaning is that's all there is. It's a Christmas song. And Winter Came and this song, Stars and Midnight Blue, are my favorite songs on this album. And to be honest, they're the 2 songs I really highly recommend the most. It has one of the most memorable melodies for me on this record, as it is very beautiful. Memories we share together, moments no one else can know. I will keep them close to me, never let them go. Once you filled my hands with roses, then you gave your heart to me. When a kiss had followed this, love was meant to be. So of course, it was a beautiful blossoming of this romance. And honestly, this song is a reverie. It's basking in that beauty and reflecting on it several years later, as I can see Enya doing. She's releasing this song about to turn 50. She's thinking about her life, and it makes you think about, someone in that time of life, feeling like their youth, those memorable romantic moments, but maybe you're still with that someone 20 years later and you think, gosh, what a journey, what a beautiful feeling. And that's what this song is. And it does have such a timeless quality to it that I think is what makes it a classic Enya ballad. When she sings You Have Lost Yourself in Dreaming, she sounds so livened, and she sounds in her voice. You can hear when she sounds so excited by her own lyrics. You can definitely hear it when she delivers. And I feel like I can hear and see the snow slowly drifting as this song progresses, because again, it's steady and just soft. And that's something that really speaks to a winter night. The spirit of Christmas past, all it really is to me is just, again, another maybe less child-geared song, but it's just a family, joyful celebration of the fact that, maybe it's Christmas Eve and we're all excited for the next day, but then it will be Christmas Day, and there is that childlike excitement. Even though she does start it out saying, when tears are in your eyes, it's time to look inside. Well, I think that's a good message that sort of embodies this whole notion of wintertime is a time to understand your emotions better and to look into yourself deeper. And Enya's music is always going to want to point you in that direction. So I think she does it very subtly in this song. But again, the melody is nice, but I feel like it doesn't stand out enough for other melodies that she composes. And I think it gets too plodding and a little bit drawn out. There's not really anything instrumentally wise that really makes you want to come back either. My Time Flies. Boy, is this an outlier song in Enya's discography, because this is the first time that she has a real drum bass line carrying this song. And she has a guitar breakdown. This song is actually a tribute to this Irish guitarist, Jimmy Faulkner, who died in March of that year before this album was released. So they wanted to, Pat Farrell's the one who performs the electric guitar solo. She does do a song on the Celts called I Want Tomorrow, and I think she's looking back to that song and employing the guitar again on this one. But again, the drum track makes this a much more upbeat pop song, but also with that pop classic rock lean, which longtime Enya fans will be really shocked to listen to, but I think it's very refreshing to hear. She knows she's never going to go fully in that direction, but when she does employ it just briefly, it really solidifies the fact that she can make songs that have a drum track. It's just, I think it's better that she doesn't most of the time, but her music it has characteristics of other genres. The lyrics are, I think of it as like a little bit of like a Beatles song, because it definitely is like, it's bouncy. Think of like the Beach Boys, for example. It has that smooth groove to it. She's singing about one step and we're on the moon, next time into the stars. A man underneath a tree, an apple falls on his head. We know what she's talking about there. 4 guys across Abbey Road, one forgot to wear shoes. That's like this classic story about one of them wasn't wearing shoes in the Abbey Road photograph that everyone is in love with, that iconic photograph of the Beatles. It could be 2010, which of course at the time was still 2 years away, and that felt like this big futuristic year. And then of course she sings it could be 3010. She's trying to talk about like time and construing it all together and our history. And again, this notion of reflecting on time at this time of year comes through with this song beautifully, but it's upbeat, it's celebratory. It's like, look how much we have done in just a short period of time, and how time is sort of speeding up. And so that speed of the song and that up tempo does sort of speak to sort of the modernization of like music. I think the hymns are so much in the past, and this song is so much more upbeat and it's speaking about the future. And I think that coalition makes sense for this song, because it's definitely forward facing, and it's a little strange to hear Enya being so forward facing, because honestly her music, although it does speak about hope for a better tomorrow, it does feel somewhat like lamenting on the past most of the time, or reflecting on it, if not just the present moment, reflecting on the past. And for her to be so forward-facing is unique and refreshing. Although, again, I don't see her doing this kind of song much more. It's nice to see her dip her toes into sort of more classic pop rock territory, with more live instruments instead of, just all synthesizer, and then, of course, the classical piano stuff that she always employs, an orchestra, which is still gorgeous. The closing track, I think it's pronounced Oíche, Chiúin, is Silent Night in Gaelic. She has always loved this song, and I think she sang it, and it was recorded a long time ago in the 90s, but she wanted to re-record this with this huge choral effect, as her voice is layered so much in this song. And it's slow. It's pretty much a cappella. There's not really anything else in the background. It's just her and her voice as this instrument, as one woman choir. And you definitely get the sense of stillness in a church, the candles, the reflection, the spirituality of it. It's very memorable, and again, another huge highlight, and it closes out the album beautifully. It leaves you in that good sort of introspective but calm, reflective, almost prayerful state of mind to send you into Christmas morning, which I think is something we all need, even if you're not Christian. Just coming to New Year's, this space to not necessarily pray, because trust me, I'm not like a Christian like that, but just this sort of meditative reflective, being one with your thoughts, and just feeling that hope and that rejuvenation. So the stillness of this song is what makes it so sonorous and beautiful, and the simplicity of it. It's such a classic and beautiful Christmas hymn with such an iconic melody that just fits right in Enya's territory. I mean, she could have easily composed this melody. I mean, it's right in her lane. So this Christmas album gives you a bit of everything that you would want from a Christmas album. It gives you upbeat, it gives you playful, it gives you innocent, it gives you spiritual, it gives you mysterious, romance, introspection, different instrumentations. I think it's a beautiful, solid Christmas album. Is it my favorite album of hers? I gotta be honest, because of the subject matter, Christmas albums usually fall pretty far on the list for me. I am not really a fan. When an artist always says, oh, I'm gonna make a Christmas album, I'm like, could you please not? I mean, make one Christmas song, but do you really have to do a Christmas album? Like, I wanna hear original stuff. Even though I do appreciate when artists do go in there to make their own Christmas songs. It's kind of hit or miss though, because sometimes it really doesn't work. And there are maybe one or two songs on this album that I do feel like they're not bad, but they're just there. They're not something I'm going to come back to and listen on my own. Maybe when I'm hearing the whole music on Christmas Eve, playing the whole CD. Because of course it is an album that I will only play in December. And that's fine, because it's a unique thing that she really wanted to do. And I'm glad she did it. And I know she will always be such a fan of Christmas. I love hearing her talk about it. And there is something just so warm about it, being close with family and that introspection. So let me know what you thought about this record. I have skipped ahead to review this album, as obviously I wanted to review it in the Christmas time. I still need to review A Day Without Rain, and I need to review Amarantine. So those two albums will be coming hopefully not too far into 2018. I still need to review those two. As I've said, I also need to review the Celts, but I'm probably going to go back and do the Celts after I've done those first two. So all the other albums, Shepherd Moons, Watermark, Memory of Trees, and Dark Sky Island, I have reviewed all those, so you can check them out. I will link them all in the description. And like I said, I'll go back to those other albums because And Winter Came may be lowest on my list of Enya albums, but they're all still so high in my list of albums in general. It's just the theme of this is a little less original, which means I kind of have to put it at a lower spot. It's still a beautiful work of hers. So I hope you enjoyed this review. I am wishing you all a very happy holidays and New Year. And if you celebrate Christmas, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. And I hope that this is a fun, family-filled time of year for you, because that's always what this holiday season is always so special to me for. I do love the holidays, and I am a big fan of Christmas. So even though I'm not, I'm an agnostic Christian. But yeah, so I hope you really enjoyed this, and happy holidays, and peace, love, and light. Thank you for watching.